All right, there is a new tag video going around put forth by Sam at Thoughts on Tomes and Marinez from My Name is Marinez, and it seemed fun. I love a tag. And the first thing you're going to get to know, if this is your first time seeing me, which probably it's not, you're probably just here because you love me and we've been together for a while and you just want to watch a video where I do a weird tag. I did not prepare. That's how I do tags. If you don't like that, this is a very off-the-cuff channel. I don't make a lot of notes. I like make bullet outlines, so like this tag questions are like the bullet outlines, and I just really hope that my brain can make it up on the fly. So that's how we're going to get into this. And so starting with question 1, how do I rate books? It's vibes, and I do put stars on things. It's a 1 to 5 star scale with half stars. I have not been able to bring myself to do quarter stars. It just feels a little too in the weeds for me at that point. And do I have a strict rating scale? No. If it's between a 1 and a 3, I did not like that book. And chances are it's equivalent. Like if I say something's 2.5, it's probably equivalent to a lot of people's like 1.5. I'm probably more generous than the average person that I follow on Booktube. But if I don't like a book, it's below 3 stars. Like that is me actively not liking it. Doesn't mean I won't recommend it. An example of that is I read Womb City last year and I gave that 2 stars. And that's a book where I'm like, if you and me align in taste, you should run for the hills. But there are people who really like it, and it's not that I had an issue with the craft. It was just more of a taste misalignment. 3 to 4 stars, so 3 and 3.5 stars is like, this is worth my time, but it was a lot of work. Especially like 3.5 stars is like, I really want to like this, but like it was really hard for me to be motivated to pick it up. That's like a 3.5. And a 3 is like, man, it was hard to pick this up, and there are a lot of issues, and I don't think it'll stick with me, but it's also not objectively bad. It's just a book. And then 4 is kind of like, I feel like I've been like this for years. 4 is kind of where I hope every book will at least land. I come into every book hoping for at least a 4-star experience. A 4-star experience is I'm engaged. I'm having a good time. Doesn't mean it's my favorite of all time. Doesn't mean it's perfect. But it's making me be okay with reading. I'm enjoying it. It's good. 4.5 is like, oh my god, this was so fun. You aren't quite a 5-star. Because a 5-star is like this X factor. I can't tell you what it is, alright? It's just, I know it when it's 5 stars. But 4.5 is like, oh my goodness, this was so good. And then 5 stars is, probably one of my favorites of the year. Could be a favorite of all time if it sticks with me long enough. And books that are favorites can be 4 stars. I just don't know till time goes by because the star ratings happen days or weeks after I read it. And sometimes you think about art for longer than you expect, and I don't usually retroactively go back and change it because I can barely keep them up to date as is. So I put stars on my wrap-ups because people like stars, and that's what they mean coming from me. And I rate primarily on engagement and entertainment, which I don't think are different. Like, I can be entertained equally by campy things and equally by thematically dense or prosy things, or anything that's a combination of those two. But it's truly, are you making me engage? Do I want to consume you? Is a big factor for me in how I rate. Like, even if you are one of the considered best books of all time, and I know that you don't have faults, if it was a slog for me to read you, you probably can't get a 5-star. That's just not how my brain works. How do you approach reviewing books? What's my review style? It's pretty casual here. So I have my Friday reads where I come in and I just casually talk about like how I felt reading a book. I do my wrap-ups, which are kind of a little more in-depth from that. If I do review videos, I do primarily series review videos, where after I read a whole series, I do a spoiler-free review, and that's probably my more structured review videos, where I start at the top explaining my baggage that I came into it with, my subjective rating, and then I kind of break it down into like world building, plot, writing style, characters, anything I think is of note that would be important for someone to realize if their taste will or won't align with a series. And I generally order those categories in order from what I think that series did best to worst. But it's still kind of pretty fluid. I only really make like a note card with bullet points, and I kind of just see where it takes me. What's the book that made you a reader? I'm luckily from one of those families where books were always around. Like, technically, this is not the answer, but like I grew up in a crib with a bunch of books around me, like those big Disney color books. Yeah, I had a lot of those around. Probably the book I remember reading on my own first. It was in second grade. And like, I'm sure someone probably told me I read before this, but what I remember reading first was a Bailey School Kids book, and I think it was the Mermaid one. I don't think I read them in order. If you don't know Bailey School Kids, those are my Magic Tree House books. I don't like the Magic Tree House because it stole the fire from Bailey School Kids. And I love those tiny little children's chapter books a lot. That and Junie B. Jones. I read those a lot. And then probably a book that I read at a young age that probably is like, oh yes, you can see how Angela is the sci-fi fantasy reader she is today, is His Dark Materials. I didn't know it at the time, but man, is it like a sci fantasy kind of more structured thing that like, it's very obvious how I was drawn to things like Brandon Sanderson after that. And then it's also kind of loosey-goosey in a way, so it makes sense, a lot of my taste, based off that formative reading of His Dark Materials. And that's the one that of all of my childhood favorites, I still think about and read and consume the most. It's the one that has emotionally affected me. It made me really appreciate when authors, when they set up scenarios that should have consequences to actions, follow through. Do you have a genre niche? Do I have a genre niche? I mean, I think most people come here for my adult fantasy and science fiction reviews, so that's primarily what I talk about. But I do like to read horror. I do like to read general fiction. I do read some nonfiction. I do read literary fiction. I dabble in a lot of things, but primarily I read fantasy and science fiction for adult readers. That's what I typically do. And I typically find that people come to me because I don't read the super popular ones. Like I do, and I actually have read the super popular ones, but by the time I started my channel, I'd already read a lot of Sanderson. I'd already read a lot of Pierce Brown. Like I just had read a lot of the ones that a lot of people start with their channel. And then some of the ones that are popular are just not my faves. Like I've read Joe Abercrombie, but he's not a favorite of mine. So I find people come to me for things that they hadn't heard of before, who maybe they're also well read, or maybe they don't, click with what's popular right now and they're trying to find their niche. I think that's kind of my lane, because whenever I do talk about anything popular, that video tanks. So that's my sense there. Do I generally prefer character-driven or plot-driven stories? I think character-driven, but I also think this kind of binary probably doesn't represent me super well. I will say that if something is very action-packed, whether, I guess that's one way of phrasing plot-driven, I get very distracted very easily. I don't visualize when I read, and I do have, focus problems, so I think I need emotional connection. And I can be emotionally connected to a plot motivation. So it's not that that doesn't exist, but if I'm not emotionally connected to the plot, and they're not giving me characters to be emotionally connected to, and there's not, a theme I'm thinking about, then I'm very lost. I will say, I am very world-building driven. You can fail on a lot of fronts, and if you give me a really cool place to bumble around in, I'm here for it. That's why I started reading fantasy and sci-fi. Show me something new. Show me a place to explore. But that's not usually a category for these types of things. What's a book you love so much that you don't care if others don't like it? Oh, a lot of my favorites. A lot of my books I love so much that I just don't care. Probably The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. You cannot faze me if you don't like this book. If you don't like this book, I feel so sorry for you. That's just sad for you. I'm still great. And I also kind of get it. Its narrative framework is a bit odd. Not everyone likes second person, although I thrive in a second person perspective. It really does put me in it. I am so immersed into that type of writing style. And I love the world of The Fifth Season, so I get to bumble around in it. It is dark. And I say this all the time, and it's truly not a lie. I would read Jemisin's grocery list. It is so easy for me to read her prose and connect with them and be immersed and entertained and engaged. And that's all I want. And it doesn't make it less engaging for me if it wasn't engaging for you, So the next one is, what's a book you love so much that if someone doesn't like it, your reading tastes won't align? And this is hard because I do think I have a wide range of tastes, especially just depending on how I want to be engaged or entertained at a time. I don't know, I'm trying to think of any of my favorites of all time where I'm just no, don't touch it. I don't want to hear you say anything bad about it. And for the most part, it doesn't really matter, but a lot of that is me growing as a person. When I started Booktube like 5 years ago, I probably would have had a lot of books for this question. But now it's just more like, oh, if you don't like this book, then I know you don't align with this half of my taste, but let's go to this half of my taste. Because, like, two of my favorite authors couldn't be more different. Like, Brandon Sanderson and N.K. Jemisin are not comparable. The only thing that's comparable between the two is they like to think of cool worlds. So maybe that's a sign. If you don't like either of those two, then my need for a cool place to explore does not align with you. But also, there's a lot of space in between that. So, like, maybe that's it. If you truly hate both Brandon Sanderson and N.K. Jemisin, we might not have anything in common. Because in terms of writing style, I think that, like, goes across the whole gambit. They have very different character work styles. They have very different plots. They have very different thematic focuses. I think one's a way better thematic author than the other. So, yeah, I just have a range of tastes. And there are definitely things I don't like. But I can't think of something I like that if you don't like it, it's like deal breaker. What's in your trash pocket? Which I think is very funny. So these are tropes that, you know, you shouldn't like, but you love them anyways. And I love an alpha hero. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. I grew up in the aughts, okay? If you grew up in the aughts and you watched CW or WB and you read all the young adult books like Twilight, it happens. It happens. And I also think, I don't know, I know it's not real life. Like, I actually just saw a TikTok or a reel or something, I don't know, a short form video the other day where someone's reading, like, a fantasy romance, and someone's like, what, you don't want, you know, this alpha hero? I was like, no, I love my husband. Will my alpha hero watch cleaning videos and help me clean stuff? No. And, like, I'm keeping my small love. And, like, that's how I am. I don't want the alpha asshole in my real life. But I love reading about those toxic relationship dynamics. I love an angsty romance so much. I love a soap opera. I truly do. I also don't think it's bad, but insta-love is fine. I like insta-love. And maybe it's because it's happened to me. Like, I have met people that I have formed strong emotional connections to very quickly. I don't think it's that unreasonable, but I get that it can't not be relatable to everyone, and it can be done in a lazy way. And I also grew up consuming musicals, and musicals don't happen without insta-love. You only got 2 hours and 30 minutes, insta-love's happening. It's happening so fast, and the only one I don't like is in Les Mis. I think that one's dumb. I really do. Maurice and that, whatever her name is, I don't like it. All right, next up is, do you have any deal breaker books? Something that, if present, immediately turns you off from a book. Ooh, questies. I can get behind a quest, but I don't love a quest, like, truly. Elves and dwarves. Don't love them. Because, again, it doesn't feel like I'm now going to be in a world that's cool, you know? Yeah, because I like cool things, and for me, Tolkien things aren't very cool. Like, they're good, but it's not, like, interesting to me from a world-building perspective. Yeah, I think a heist. Ooh, I don't like a heist. I have yet to find a book where I really like the heist. I think the only exception is Mistborn, and even then, it's not really a heisty book. It's more of a ballroom politics book. So yeah, I think those are kind of things that, like, I love all of those storytelling things in visual media, but in a book, I'm not a fan. What's a strong opinion you have about a book released within the last year? Oh, gosh, I read a lot of books. Do I have a strong opinion? I mean, my strongest opinion that I don't think is a hot take, but it's weird just, like, because you get, like, put into silos on the internet. But Wind and Truth is not different from the other 4 Stormlight books. And I don't mean that it's perfect. I mean that it has all the flaws and concerns that the other ones do. And it's not just suddenly worse. I don't know. It's very weird to me. But that's, like, I guess my strong opinion. And I think it's just a matter of, like, maybe people have grown in their reading taste since they've read the first 3, and I just don't grow. I am a stagnant child. I love something, I love it forever. This is what I mean by my taste is broad. I can really meet a book where it's at, like, 99% of the time. And so for me, and I reread all 4 Stormlight books the year I read Wind and Truth, so it's not like revisionist history here. No, like, I read Words of Radiance in May. It's the same. It's not different. It's exactly what it's always been. But that's apparently an incredibly hot take. What do you look for in writing? I want to not notice I'm reading. Is that very useful? Not really. I hate noticing. Writing. Like, I hate noticing it. That doesn't mean it can't be flowery. It doesn't mean it can't be poetic. But if it's clunky, I hate it. If I can't tell who the subject of the sentence is, I go mad. If a sentence is a paragraph long, oh my God, stop. These are my writing concerns. But for the most part, I can just tell if it works or it doesn't work. It's hard for me to verbalize. But if I notice it, if I start acting like an editor, if I feel confused, I'm like, no, you have to be so bad for me to notice. Like, I don't mind writing from like Rebecca Yarros or Sarah J. Maas because I don't notice it. Doesn't mean it's good, but I don't notice it. So it's a version of bad that I don't notice, and therefore I am okay. Doesn't mean you can't critique it. I think that's totally fine. It's just more like, while I personally am sitting in a corner reading a book, that's what I care about in my reading experience. How do you decide what to read next? Every month I look at my stack of books and I think about the goals I have made and the buddy reads I have planned, and I put together a list, and every year it evolves to be based off my habits because I like making attainable goals. And so I think, how much audiobook time do I have? How much physical reading time do I have? Do I have access to these books? How much have I been reading lately? Do you think you can read X number of books? And I just do that. And I do that every month. And every quarter I look at my series to try and make sure I don't get too behind in any book series that I like care about. But that's about it, really. I just adjust. And I've just been slowly doing that through the years. Where do you get inspiration for Booktube content? My friends. Like this came from Marinez and Sam. Just what I see going around. Like, for the most part, though, I do a lot of just standard videos. Like, I like just talking about what I'm reading. So every week I talk about what I'm reading. I like planning what I'm going to read. So I talk about what I want to plan to read. I like reflecting. And this came from, like, Books and Lala. She's celebrating her 10-year anniversary, and it's my 5-year anniversary. And she's, like, doing all of these videos each month. And I'm like, I can't do all of that, and I don't want to. But I do want to celebrate and do multiple videos on my 5-year. And so I'm going back and I'm looking at each of my 5 years' best of books and what stuck with me and what didn't and what were the low and highlights. So that's like, I watch a lot of Booktube, just so we're clear. And so I do just see what other people talk about. And typically, if I'm interested in watching it, I make it, except for vlogs. I am not good at vlogging. I just forget to talk to a camera, and my house is not aesthetic. And I know that's not a requirement, but it just doesn't make me feel good that my house is not aesthetic, so I get that creative outlet out for Patreon. If you could make any book go viral right now, what would it be? Ooh, any book. Ooh. Oh, wow. Gosh, that's hard. It's always, like, I have such niche, like, favorite books, but, like, right now, I don't know. I'm going to think of it after I finish this video. This is why you should prepare. This is why you should prepare before you do tag videos. But I guess right now, my instinct, and it's probably because The Broken Binding is having books of it come out and stuff like that, but it's The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick, and we're going to get our tarot cards soon. Like, it's getting more popular, and, like, obviously I attract the type of person who reads this book or will read it from my recommendation and who likes it because our tastes generally align. And that makes me very happy. But this book deserves more. It deserves so much more. Like, it deserves Davabad level of love. Like, that's how I feel. In terms of, like, where it exists in our high epic fantasy oeuvre. And I love it. And I love this author duo. I think they have another book coming out. So I guess that's one of this is my personality books that I would love to go viral. Let's see. What's our next one? Last question. Who are some booktubers with reading tastes similar to yours? Ooh, tough question. Because you'd think, you watch Booktube a lot. You would know whose taste line with yours. This is not true. This is definitely not true. Oh, gosh. All I can think about is that I have a lot of, when people hate a book, I'm, like, instantly want to read it. Marinez is one of those. Like, if it's a romance book and she doesn't like it, I'm like, oh yeah, let's go. I will say Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany, I think there is a good enough overlap in some genres that I'm like, okay, I will try that out. But then there's also times where she loves a book that I hate, so it's not like a one-to-one. Tori Morrow, someone I go to for sci-fi and things like that. And it's less so, I guess, me trying to find a book that fits my taste. Because I do recognize that, for myself at least, I really don't know what I'm going to like till I like it. Like, I don't. So what I end up doing is like, oh, I'm just curious. I'm really curious because a lot of people are having emotional thoughts about X thing, and I want to see if I like it. I mean, that's what happened with Warm Hands of Ghosts. Everyone I knew did not enjoy their time with it. But I was like, man, but everyone's like having a response, and like, I'm curious. Like, I want to know. And then I ended up loving it. So, yeah, I mean, there's, and I guess Sam from Thoughts on Tomes, our tastes align, but lately she's been reading things I've already read. And so it's been very fun seeing her really love things that I already love. But I haven't gotten as many new recommendations, and also sometimes I get scared. Because again, I think it's really hard to find people who perfectly align with taste. Because a lot of these people also like things like Gideon the Ninth, which are like my arch nemesis. So I think it's just trial by fire, and you just pick and choose. But I do truly, it is so much easier for me to be like, oh, they hate this romantasy, I should check it out when it comes to Marinez. And this happens also with Leanna's Library, who I love. But if she hates a fantasy book, I'm like, oh, I gotta try it out. Because a lot of her pet peeves don't bother me. And so then the other parts that do shine just get to really come through. So yeah, I'll link all of them down below. And if you're a creator, small or large, you should make this. They're putting a playlist together. I think it's fun to have a community tag. I'm big on community. So yeah, and if you've been following me for a while, let me know any answers to these questions that I have forgotten, because I'm sure you guys probably have a better read on me than I do myself. And if you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here, gosh, I don't know. Leave a heart of the color of your choice. And otherwise, if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.